Second.
Yeah.
All right, and hello everybody, and welcome to. I'm gonna go ahead and mute everybody here, and then Ricardo, you can unmute yourself once I do that. Good morning and welcome everybody. It's good to see you guys. And this is now the third session we're having, and the third session of interviews with professionals. And today this is Ricardo Lopez. Ricardo Lopez is a music producer, engineer, arranger, composer, multi-instrumentalist. You can see even in the background to his left-hand side, it's our screen on the right-hand side, that he is a Grammy award-winning producer, Latin Grammys, right? And
That's an American Grammy. Actually.
That's an American Grammys. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Latin one.
That one's coming.
Oh, it has
nominations. Yeah, that's a lot of nominations, but I haven't won that one yet. But
oh, really?
But that's the American one. Yeah.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
Yeah.
Even cooler. And then of course there's these three awesome looking guitars in the background there.
Yeah. Got the studio all set up.
Yeah, haven't you like signed any of them and like eBay it or something?
No. It'd be I feel like it'd be weird to sign my own guitars and keep using them. So maybe someone else's.
For sure. All right. Well, we'd like to give a warm Wildcat welcome to Ricardo Lopez. And Ricardo, we've been doing these sessions, like I told you right before. We've been doing these sessions just to go ahead and introduce different routes or journeys into the music field. And I think we should probably start there, with this title you have, music producer. I think it's real easy for people to know and understand, oh yeah, music teaching, that makes sense. It's like what Firestone does. Then there's the professional, we had Ricardo Suarez on here a couple of days ago, a bass player, played with Shakira, D'Angelo, Julio.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So we, it's easy to tell those people, what does a music producer do?
Well, a music producer.
Or tell us what you do in general.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I am a producer. Like that's like my job description. But what a producer does is kind of, I wear a lot of hats, especially nowadays. A producer, it's kind of this like, we do a lot of stuff. So essentially, we're kind of the behind the scenes person that has the overall vision for what you hear on the radio for whenever a song comes out. It can be like a pop song, a hip hop song. It can be like any kind of genre. What a producer does, they're the person that takes the song that an artist or a songwriter has written, and we kind of make it reality in the sense that we we make all the sounds that you hear. We like get the drums, get the keyboards, the guitars, the bass. We kind of put it all together. We're essentially arranging sort of digitally to get the overall sound of a song. We have the back in the older days, they were like essentially kind of I would say kind of like the same thing as a producer in a movie. If you can kind of make that same analog, where like they were the ones that were in charge of necessarily like, okay, I'm gonna hire this bass player, I'm gonna hire this drummer, I'm gonna hire this engineer, I'm gonna go to this studio. They're the kind of ones that put everything together and have the vision for the overall product that is eventually gonna come out. I also deal with the artists directly. I tend to be in the room when they're recording their vocals and stuff like that. I kind of give them direction. You kind of tell them, okay, I would like you to sing this part like this. I want you to try this. I want you to try that. I want you to try harmonies here, etc. I would say the main thing is just the overall vision of a recording. So,
okay. So to kind of like recap that a little bit. Sure. Well, first as a quick side note, hey, Miss Artime, sure. I saw that you came on here. I don't know if your sound's working yet, but hey, Miss Artime. She's our assistant principal. So.
Oh, hi. Awesome. Hello, how are you doing?
Thank you for doing this for the kids.
Of course.
Yeah, you can see Miss Artime in the background there. He's got his Grammy posted up there for us.
That's amazing.
It's awesome. So go back to to go back to the recap there. So in other words, what composers or musicians could do, right, is they could bring to you like a skeleton, bare bones idea of a song,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
let's say piano and vocals,
Right.
and or just one vocal, and then say, okay, well, here's my song. This is what I would like to record, and then you would say, okay, I like that, but we would need like this, and that. And then you
So,
would
yeah.
essentially go out and either A, fill them in yourself electronically, or
Mm-hmm.
B, hire people to say, okay, these are my studio musicians. I'm going to have them play live on your track.
Exactly. It's just getting the product from the raw idea of the song and getting it radio ready, essentially, or CD ready, or just, that you are the one in charge of making it sure that the song goes from the idea to something that can be played, anywhere on the radio, on a music video, or anything. So you're the one that kind of just gets that entire process done.
Oh, okay. That's very cool. That's very cool. Back in college, I had the opportunity to sing for Desmond Child for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
so then he was basically like presenting to us like background tracks or whatever. And then what he would do is hire out people to sing things to present them to other musicians. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, oh, I want Josh Groban to sing my song. So
That's
here,
right.
go lay down this track and I'm gonna send it over there, or that kind of thing.
That's right. Yeah. They can do like demo. What do you call it? That a demo track to send over to musicians to see if to
So
artists to see if
essentially,
they
in
want
that
to jump
sense,
on.
he was producing that song then.
Yeah, exactly. Or as a producer, you also like
He produced it.
as a producer songwriter, yeah, you can pitch it to artists,
Mm-hmm.
and then the artist can be like, oh, okay, I like the song, and you have demo singers like yourself, and then they hear themselves in the song, and eventually want to jump on, and yeah, he was doing work back then, yeah.
Awesome. So what we've normally been doing is kind of starting off with a little like, share us your background. How did you determine this career to be your career? Like, what kind of music background did you have? Did you have any at all? Or
Mm-hmm.
what's going on?
Sure. Well, I had always liked music growing up. For me, it was just a kind of like a fun thing to do with friends. Back in middle school as well, like you guys are in now. Like I had my group of friends, and we all kind of listened to rock, and we had like my favorite band at the time was Blink-182 and some other bands and stuff like that. And I played guitar, and I was self-taught at that time with guitar. I had some piano lessons, earlier in life and stuff like that, but nothing I took necessarily too seriously. It was just more like a fun thing to do. And I happen to have a friend of mine that had a garage that turned into a music room. And it was just like a fun place for me and my friends to just jam and just kind of explore what we liked, what kind of music we wanted to make. Just like a really, I think the ability to express ourselves, like, was really, really important for me. But at that time, I think it was just like a fun thing to do until I was about to graduate and go into high school. And I was looking for schools to go to, and this art school had just opened up, which actually I think they closed down, but Academy of Arts and Minds in the Grove. So at that time it was a music school, and I didn't know that was a thing, because at that point I was looking into something
But
more
you grew
like.
up down here though, right? So what middle school did you go to?
I was living in Key Biscayne at the time, so I went to the K through 8 there, the
Oh, okay.
KBCS, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact, I taught there.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Before you were born, in the 80s. I taught there in
Oh,
the
wow, yeah.
90s. And then I taught at St. Agnes as well.
Oh, did you?
Are you still at Key Biscayne?
No, I'm not. I moved out. I moved out back in 2005. But when I moved, because I was born in Colombia, I moved to Key Biscayne in 2000, and I did all of middle school there. Yeah, before moving out.
Did you do elementary there as well?
I did 4th and 5th grade there. Yeah. And then I did middle school there as well. Yeah, that was the only elementary I did there, though, just the 4th and 5th.
So I know a lot of teachers. We'll talk later.
Yeah, I had, I mean, I don't know if you know, I had Miss Yanis for fourth grade. I don't know if she's still
Yeah,
there.
she was my carpool buddy for many years.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I had her for fourth and Miss Skinner for fifth. Yeah,
She's still
we
there.
can
Yeah,
talk later about all the teachers there.
yeah. Miss Skinner was my son's teacher as well. She's
Yeah.
retired.
Oh, she's great. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's all our memories.
Good
Yeah.
teachers you
So
had.
I'm sorry.
You had great teachers.
Oh, I did. I did. Yeah. Very, very much so. Yeah. I love my time in Key Biscayne. But
So then you auditioned for Academy of Arts and Science?
yeah, so I auditioned, and at that time, I was self-taught in guitar, so I kind of just came up with like whatever medley of songs I knew how to play at the time, just like, you know, Metallica, Blink, or whatever mash of stuff I knew. I was like, oh, I want to try to do this music thing. So luckily the school was kind of just starting out. They needed the students. You need to kind of fill out some stuff, and I guess they saw some potential in me, so they took me in. And I started going there, and it was there that I started playing cello. I started listening to more. I started listening to jazz, to classical music. I played in a bunch of jazz ensembles with guitar, and I started actually learning theory and actual music. You know, I was being taught music. And at the time, I knew it was something I wanted to do as a career. I just didn't know exactly what I wanted to do in music. Just because I enjoyed it so much. It was the thing I liked the most. It was my biggest passion. But I just, at the time, I was like, I don't know what I can do with this. I just really enjoy doing it. So throughout high school as well, I was still in a lot of bands with that same group of friends. It was just something I never really stopped doing, just because it was a lot of fun, and I played locally and I did stuff like that. So it was when I really started recording like kind of demos with the band, and kind of trying to put music out, that I really found different things that you could do with music that's not necessarily just a performer. So I started meeting people that were recording engineers or producers, or they did live sound and stuff like that. I was just like, okay, this is interesting, because it's not necessarily playing in an orchestra or playing in a jazz band or playing in this, because I felt like my technique was never gonna catch up to those professionals. But I knew I had other things to contribute. So at first I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna be a recording engineer or a mixing engineer. You know, that was kind of like the path I wanted to go, because I really liked, I wanted to work in big studios. I wanted to work with big artists and big bands, and I wanted to make music that was going to sound on the radio and stuff like that. So after I graduated from Academy of Arts and Minds, I went to FIU. I did their music technology program there. And there I was focusing on, I wanted to focus on recording and learning more about just kind of like using digital audio workstations, which is what producers use to kind of make music and stuff like that. Well, at the time, still like playing as much as possible, just because in anything you do in music, you have to play as much as possible. You have to listen as much as possible. So during FIU, in my extracurricular activities were, I had a job recording a bunch of recitals, a bunch of concerts. I learned how to edit them, how to mix them, and stuff like that. So I was doing a lot of that. Once I was graduating from FIU, at first I didn't know what I was going to do. I was like, oh, I don't know how to get started in what I'm trying to do. There are a lot of routes to go. You can get a master's degree, or you can, there are technical schools that are there for learning how to engineer, how to produce, how to do certain things. So I didn't know what to do. And I was lucky enough that I had a family friend, a family kind of connection that was a producer already, which I had known for years. And funny enough, I mean, I think since I realized I wanted to do something in music when I was 12 years old, I would bother this one person, this producer, and I was like, let me do anything in your studio, anything. I will like make coffee, I will clean it, I will do whatever. And obviously he was like, yeah, you know, you're 12 years old, like I don't really have anything for you to do right now. But it happened that as I was graduating FIU, he was moving out of the studio that he had at his house, and he was actually building a studio. really close to my house as well. So I was like, listen, I'm just about to graduate. I just recorded this music with my band. I just wanted to
I'm
see
not
what I'm
12
doing.
anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not 12. So he kind of just took a chance on me, which is the one thing that I'm going to be thankful to him forever, because people taking a chance on you is a really
Yeah.
really big deal, you know, especially when
Especially in
people
our
are
field.
exactly when people are established. Like it takes a lot for someone to give you a chance, you know, when you're brand new. So I really appreciate that. So I started working for this producer, and you can look him up later if you want. His name is Julio Reyes. He's a Colombian producer as well. He's really, he's worked with everybody that you can think of in the Latin industry. He's worked with Mark Anthony, Jennifer Lopez, Alejandro Sanz, Ricky Martin, like whoever you can think of, he's worked with them. So, I was really super excited to work with him. And at the beginning, I did exactly what I thought I was going to be doing, which is, you know, I was making coffee, I was kind of cleaning around the place, and I was just like soaking up as much as possible. You know, at the time, I thought, I was like, okay, you know, I still want to engineer, I want to record, I want to mix and stuff like that. But he kind of really opened up my mind to what being a producer and a songwriter is, because that's as an engineer, as a mixing engineer, you still get to be super creative, but you're kind of towards the end of the, it's still extremely an extremely important step, and you still get to be creative, but it's toward the end of the process. Once the song is produced and everything's kind of done, you kind of just put everything in its place so it can be sent to the label and the radio stations and stuff like that. But a producer's there the whole time. You get to be as creative as possible. You essentially make a song from scratch. So I got really interested in doing that, and as I worked with him, I got to work in really important records. Excuse me, and that's how he eventually got the Grammy, because I got to work on Ricky Martin's music. I got to work with J-Lo, got to work with Mark, and you get to work from just like this raw idea that they bring in, and you're like, wow, this is as behind the scenes as you can get with, you know, someone that you usually see like just the end product of, which is really exciting. So you get to take something from someone that is really big outside of where you are, and you kind of get to be in that process from the beginning and get to make music with them. So that became really, really exciting for me. So I worked with this producer for about 5 or 6 years. So I did a lot of music with him. I soaked up as much as I could, and eventually I left to be on my own. And yeah, I've been doing that for about 2 or 3 years now, where I've been on my own. And yeah, that's where I am today.
So what song was the Grammy for?
Well, the Grammy is actually
Album, really?
for the album. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
for Ricky Martin's album, the one that he released back in 2015, which was A Quien Quiera Escuchar. That's the name of the album.
Nice, very nice.
Yeah, so you guys can listen to that on Spotify if you want. But yeah, that's a great album, really special for me.
Cool. So, all right, we're going to get into the question and answer session. And just so you know, I'm going to be flipping back and forth between two screens.
Sure.
What we do is we have the kids submit all of the questions ahead of time. And so I'll just pop over to another screen, ask the question, and come back, kind of thing.
Okay, perfect.
Right.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
So,
thank you for doing this again. I have to pop out because I have 60 teachers I need to visit. But
No worries.
thanks
Thank you for stopping by.
Really, really wonderful. And I think that, you know, the kids are blessed to have somebody as a role model that they can look up to and that has had all this experience, is willing to meet with them. You don't really know the impact you're having.
Oh, of course. No, so happy to do it.
Somebody
really
comes on and says the impact you had. You actually had a great impact on me. I have some more questions for you, but I'll email you.
Okay, please. Yeah, please do. Okay. I'll give Eric my email so you can have it.
Thanks. I'll keep in touch with you. Thank you.
Okay, will do. Thanks.
All right. So first question, how did you know you were connected with music instead of other hobbies?
I don't know. I mean, that's kind of it's a tough question, but it's an easy question at the same time. You know, it's just, you just kind of know with certain things. It's hard to describe it in other words. It's just kind of the one thing that I was the most passionate about. When I think I knew since I was like maybe 4 years old. I mean, it's hard to say, but it was just always the one thing that I always came back to, and I was like, wow, I love this and I like this the most. You know, growing up, I obviously like I loved sports. I loved video games, like anybody loves video games. My dad is a journalist. I was like, okay, maybe I can be a journalist. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do that. My mom was a teacher, so things like that. There was a lot of stuff I could do, but once I started growing up and I started getting together with people that are kind of like-minded, and we all kind of just defaulted on being like, okay, what's the thing I like the most, and where do I feel the most creative, that I can express myself, that I'm actually being myself. It was always music. You know, it can be anything else for anybody else, but for me, it kind of just it felt like music was always the right thing. And once I started learning more instruments and stuff like that, and learning more about the process of getting a song from scratch to radio, I was like, oh my gosh, this is for me. It was just all so exciting.
That's awesome. And I think, to be fair with that question as well, I mean, it is coming from a middle school student, right? And you said yourself, inside middle school, you weren't really even sure that what you wanted to do, but you
Right, yeah.
enjoyed music. You were involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's important, you know, being able to give yourself the space to do whatever it is that you feel, and
100%.
everybody has all kinds of different passions, and you know, to give yourself the opportunity to explore that.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is allow yourself to explore those passions that you have, and give yourself time to figure out what it is that you like most about the things that you do like. You know, and that's why I think it's really cool that you're having me on here, because like sometimes you don't know what kind of opportunities there are for things that you like. So you
I think
give yourself your time.
A lot of us don't necessarily. I know myself. I didn't come from a musical background at all. My parents were definitely not musicians. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and my dad was an electronics technician for the FAA.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so it's like they had no idea how to guide me forward, and I'm sure that somebody is eventually going to ask the question, so I'll wait for them to ask it, but if not, I'll go ahead.
Okay, for sure.
So another question, how long have you been doing music?
Oh man, I mean, professionally, or professionally, I you could say I've been doing music for 7-8 years now. I could consider that like once I graduated from college, and I started working at a studio under this producer, that was like the beginning of my career. So yeah, about that long. But how long have I been making music? I mean, if you consider what the bands I was in and all that stuff that I've been making music since I was like 12 years old, you know, like writing songs and just having fun, you know.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it professionally to do it, you know. It's
yeah, absolutely. Another question is just coming through here. They're wanting to know if music has helped you through anything that's gone on in your life, and then maybe that part also helped you realize your career.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It just music is just a great escape in general. You know, I think for when you're happy, when you're sad, when you're angry, when you're anything, I mean, music is just like the best. For me, it's just for like anybody else, it could be drawing, you know, painting, it could be making things with your hands. It's just like, it's just the way that it was for me to kind of escape, you know. And it's one of those things, I mean, growing up when I was in middle school and stuff like that, and I was just kind of learning how to play guitar, I was listening to music that I identified with, and I was like, I want to learn how to play that. I want to be able to sing it to myself and play it to myself, because it applies to me, and eventually those kind of things you develop into your own creativity. So then you start writing your own songs and putting your own words and your own kind of music into that it is that you love. So yeah, it's definitely helped me through anything. I mean, like I don't know if you guys can identify and stuff like it's helped me through through breakups, through family things, through or even the times that I'm happy. Like when something really awesome in my life happens, I want to write a song about it too. It's just a great way to channel emotions and put maybe big events in your life into song, which I think is amazing.
Nice, nice. So what would you say that it would take to become a successful music producer?
I mean, it takes a lot of things. It takes a lot of hard work, but I mean, I think the first and the most important thing is that you have to love it. Just like with anything else, I think if you want to be successful at something, you have to be willing to just put the work in. And I think if you love it, it becomes easier to put that work in. So I think you have to be consistent. You have to work at it a little bit every day. You have to listen to a lot of music. You have to write a lot of music. It's important as you grow up to start meeting and knowing people that are like-minded like yourself, because that's how you grow a community. A community is extremely important. Nobody does anything in any industry by themselves. I think it's really important to if you have classmates that like music as much as you do, it's great to get together with them, to just listen to music, to play music together, because those bonds, if you guys end up doing stuff later on, there'll be people you do work with. You can write songs with them, you can produce stuff with them. So I think meeting the right people is also super important. And I think attitude is going to go a long way for everybody. I think that's one of the most important things. If you find yourself in a position where you're kind of like the bottom of the ladder in a certain industry, you have to know that you're there for a reason, and that if you're humble, and that if you work hard, people are going to give you the chance to do what you like doing the most. So yeah, I think it's just attitude, hard work, and obviously if there's talent involved, of course, I mean, people are always going to see talent, but I promise you this, for anybody that's kind of thinking of doing it, keep practicing, keep developing your craft, but people see hard work and humility more than anything else, and you'll get the experience eventually. People will give you the chance to do what you want to do.
And I always love that quote by Maya Angelou, that she talks about the difference between modesty versus humility, where just being modest is, saying, oh, yeah, thank you very much. You're grateful for the compliments whenever something goes right. But humility is the ability to recognize that your compliment is not just your compliment, because there are many people that have come before you and paved that way for you to be there. And so in turn, your compliment should really be a pass-through for yourself to lift up and help others behind you.
Absolutely. I mean, it's being humble is just being thankful for my parents being so supportive of me, for my teachers, for the people giving me a chance when you want to do things right for yourself, but for them, because you want to be thankful for the opportunities that you're getting. So yeah, it's extremely important. And if you do that and if you're consistent, I mean, I think anybody can be successful at being a musician in any shape or form.
Sure. So next question, how do you get inspired to writing songs, and what happens? Like, do you have a process? And to kind of like piggyback, I guess, on that student's question.
Sure.
So for example, like I once saw an interview with Stephen King, the horror. Yeah. So if kids don't know, that might be our kind of age or whatever, but Stephen King, the famous horror writer, and he still writes stuff today. But he
extremely prolific.
He said that his process is like every single day he has it carved out inside his day that he just goes in and he writes. Like, it doesn't even matter whether he's in the mood for it or not. He just writes and writes and writes and writes and writes. And a lot of times he writes crap, he says, but then, there's that time where an idea will keep coming back and back and back. And then he's like, oh my God, I'm going to expand on that. And before you know it, you got Cujo or Pet Sematary happening.
Right. Of course. I mean, the process for writing, I mean, it depends, because there's so many different ways to write nowadays. You can write on your own. You can write with a bunch of people. You can write, but I think as far as being inspired, Um, I mean, it depends. I mean, it does happen a lot with what you're saying, that kind of like Stephen King, that you just have to, you don't, I mean, you would want to sit down and you kind of just want to see what happens. You want to you want to just let go and kind of just write and write and write. And sometimes, I mean, a lot of times what you write isn't going to be good, but what you're doing is you're practicing for when the great stuff comes, you're ready to put it down to paper or to your computer or anything that happens. So yeah, I think, you can get inspired by anything. I mean, music is such an open-ended medium that you can write about anything, you know? You can write about how you're feeling about a certain person. You can write how you feel inside. You can write about something that's happening in the world. You can write about, you know what I mean? And I think being inspired to write music, like any other art, you get inspired by so many other things outside of music. You know, so I think it's something that you can think about while you're playing video games, while you're watching a movie, while you're reading a book, while you're watching stuff on Netflix, while you're walking around your neighborhood, while you're playing. I mean, that's all inspiration. You take all of that and you channel into music. So it's not really about sitting down and like, oh, okay, what would make a good song? But like, what am I feeling? What's happening, like, that I can put into words and music. And I think doing that a little bit every day, it can be about the most mundane stuff, you know? And then eventually you'll write something that you're like, okay, this goes beyond just what I'm writing about, and other people can relate to it, which is, I think, the power of music, that people can relate to something that someone else has written. So it's just about doing it a little bit every day and being inspired by everything around you, not just music itself.
Okay. So how long does it take you to write a song? Like, how long would it take necessarily on average?
Oh man, that's a tough question, because it can take an hour or it can take days. It really kind of depends on the song and just that day and how you're feeling and the amount of people that you're with. And it's a, you know, as a creative, you're affected by so many different things, you know. But yeah, sometimes ideas just kind of pour out of you and you're done with an entire song in a few hours, you know, including the production, including the thing. You're like, wow, I wish it was easy all the time. But sometimes you start with an idea and you kind of get blocked, but you really want to push it through. And sometimes you can leave it alone, come back to it. It can take, I mean, days. But yeah, the process is really open-ended. And I think something important to keep in mind for any of you that are trying to write songs is give yourself that time. You know, you can, there are different exercises that you can do. You can try to write a song within a certain amount of time. You know, you can give yourself that as an exercise, but I think it's also a good exercise to stop what you're doing when you're not feeling it and come back to it. I think that also takes a certain amount of practice to start an idea, to just write something down on a notebook or anywhere else and be like, okay, this idea is good, but I'm not really feeling it right now. I want to come back. And then, you know, so it's something that can take hours to days, I think.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of cool. You know, it kind of reminds me of that story of Bobby McFerrin with the "Don't Worry, Be Happy."
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly, he just walked in one session and laid down all the tracks to that song in like 40 minutes, and
yeah, I mean,
boom, you know, amazing.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it happens. I mean, not every song is gonna come out like that, but sometimes they just do, and it's amazing when that happens. Yeah.
Locks in. Okay, if you could go back to when you were little, let's say middle school, knowing what you know now, what would you do anything to change anything?
I mean, I don't think I necessarily would tell myself to change anything. I would just give myself words of encouragement, you know, just to keep going and to enjoy the process, because sometimes I feel like, especially like when you're in school and you feel like you have to practice for a performance, or you have to practice for certain things, and you're doing this stuff that seems kind of mundane. You're like, oh no, what I like is performing. I don't really like practicing, or I don't really like doing my theory homework, or I don't like doing this. Like, it's all part of the process, and you have to enjoy all of it just as much as you enjoy the performance part of it, you know,
or find a way to enjoy it anyway.
or find a way to enjoy, you know what I mean? It's just, it's going to feel tedious, but it's what really builds character and skills and the perseverance that you're going to need to have once you're out in the real world trying to make a career out of what you like doing. So yeah, I would just tell myself to just enjoy it and to really pay attention to the way I practice, to the way I listen to music, to the way I experience going to concerts, to, you know, it's just really important to be present and to see if, okay, if this is an actual goal of mine, I have to be mindful of it every day. I have to be mindful of like a certain goal, and not necessarily as a pressure, but just as a way to grow as a musician and then just as a person. I think I would tell myself that. Yeah.
Awesome. So what were your feelings like when you won the Grammy?
Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing. It was just I wasn't there. I wasn't in LA at the time but I was in the studio with all my colleagues and stuff like that. We worked on the album. We were watching it. It was kind of a surreal feeling. Just kind of those things that you never really dream about actually happening. But it was amazing. Yeah, it was a great feeling.
Fantastic. Did you ever think that you were going to pursue music as a full-time career when you were growing up?
Yeah. I like pretty early on, I think. I think once I started, like I was mentioning earlier, just as I started playing in bands with friends and stuff like that, and I kind of started
It was like high school that you kind of like.
Yeah, exactly. That when I saw that, I was like, okay, there are high schools that are just for the arts. I'm like, okay, maybe I can do something with this for real if you can go through high school and college and stuff like that, and you're specifically trying to do this one thing that I love. That's kind of when I really knew that I wanted to do something with music.
Cool. All right, super personal question here. Are you still shooting for a goal in life? And if so, what is it?
Musically or just professionally? Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't say, so.
Sure. No, well, I mean,
you take it as you want to and answer it as you wish.
Sure. I think it's important to always have goals. I think you never get to a point where you should be satisfied. You know, like, I mean, I am happy and I'm satisfied where I am right now, but there's always room to grow. You know, you can be thankful for where you are while still striving to be somewhere else tomorrow, you know, and always wanting to be better and always wanting to grow. So I think my general goal is to be a better musician, a better producer, a better communicator, a better, you know, more skilled, but at the same time, better at talking to people, to artists, conveying my ideas. Just be, I think it's going to sound really broad, but it's just being better than I was yesterday, and that can apply to anything. Yeah,
for sure. That's beautiful. Okay. Was there someone in particular that inspired you? And if so, what did you accomplish because of them?
Well, there are a lot of people that inspired me growing up when it came to music. I think it's super important, and I was always really inspired by. It's funny, I'm not just saying that obviously because I'm in your class, but I was always really inspired by my music teachers. You know, like my music teachers growing up, because they're the ones that, I mean, like you're doing right now, you're giving these kids a chance to hear from people that are doing music every day and stuff like that. You're really kind of opening a window for them to see it as a possibility for themselves. And I think I recognized that as well when I was growing up, and I thought that was extremely important and extremely formative for me. So those were really important. Once I was out of school, one of the most important people in my life was my mentor, like Julio Reyes. Or like when I started working with him, I saw someone that was kind of at the peak of their career, and I was like, I want to be that. I want to strive to be there as well. So kind of learning from them every day, and it just, I think, find that one person wherever you are in life that you want to be like. you're gonna find those in different stages of your life. You know, you can look up to your music teachers while you're in school. You can look up to certain mentors when you're in a career. I mean, when you're in college, you're always gonna have like person that you can strive to be. And yeah, for me, it was my music teachers and my mentor once I was out of school. So it was really important for them.
Awesome. So when you cross paths with other artists and performers, is there any advice that you guys give each other since you're in the same industry?
I think I think we know it's interesting because there are many, like especially in the industry I'm in, there's uh two clear sides. There's like what you would call the creative side and the business side of it. Obviously, as a music industry, so the business side is the one that deals, like, it's the record label, the one that has to sell the music, the one that has to promote the music, the one that has to deal with contracts and blah 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 blah. You know what I mean? But there's the artist side, which is I think the side that we connect to the most and from the earliest. You know, I don't, so as producers, it's funny because as a producer, and my mentor used to always say that when you're a producer, you're also kind of a therapist, you know, when you're dealing with artists, because artists tend to have sort of a lot of insecurity, a lot of like ego problems and stuff like that. So once you get in a room with them and with other artists and other songwriters and stuff like that, you want to make it clear that it's a space free of judgment. I think music making at its
Wow, that's so
best.
funny that you even say that. I mean, especially considering the names that you were dropping, like, it's almost hard to imagine that somebody like, Ricky Martin or J-Lo walks into a studio and thinks, I don't know if my idea is good enough, or I don't
Yeah, I mean, it
know
happens.
if
I
I
mean,
sound it.
there are definitely artists like that want with experience gain certain confidence.
Right. I mean,
You
obviously
know,
this
and
session is being recorded, so like, tread lightly and not name names and that kind of stuff. But
sure. No,
um,
but I like, and I mean just in general, like, I mean, artists of that caliber, like Jennifer and Ricky and Mark and stuff like that, they've been at it for so long that they've developed this confidence that they can just go in a studio and know that their ideas are worth what they are, and know, you know what I mean. But I mean mostly in like when you're starting out, artists are just starting out, producers
oh,
are just
okay,
starting
okay.
out. You know, it's just
Yeah.
it's a moment in time where, like, you want to make sure that, okay, are my ideas good enough, or am I good enough? And I think music at its best, and at any point, it's understanding that when you're in a room with other songwriters and other musicians, that it's a judgment-free zone. You know what I mean? It's a place for you to throw ideas, express yourself how you want, and I think lift each other up. So you're like, okay, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, that's a great idea. Oh, well, I'm not sure about that idea, but let's tweak it and see if we can get it somewhere else. Things like that, and kind of build everybody, kind of lift everybody up. And eventually, yeah, you're gonna have the Mark Anthony's of the world, the Ricky Martins of the world, where they just exude confidence and exude all this stuff, which a lot of it does eventually carry into the studio once they've got their years in. The same thing with producers. You have to be able to know, you're always going to be nervous in a certain sense, or always going to be like, okay, are people going to like the song? Are people going to like this or that? But you develop the confidence to go into a studio, into a writing session, with the confidence that I'm here for a reason.
Hmm.
I have the experience, I have the knowledge, I have the talent. It's just channeling correctly, and hopefully being in a room with people that want to channel the same energy and the same things as I do, and that's when you get great songs and just great music.
Awesome. So how do you feel that attending FIU helped you with your music capabilities? And kind of a
Oh,
side
a
note
whole
of
lot.
that, I would also say, like, have you ever thought about, like, what would have happened if you went to a different school, say like if you had just went to the Hit Factory, or if you went to Full Sail, which
Hmm.
if you guys don't know what any of those situations are, Hit Factory is in kind of like where most of the big name songs were coming out, at least in the 2000s.
Yeah, it's
a lot of
probably one of the most famous studios in South Florida.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then Full Sail is a university that's geared specifically towards recording and music producing and stuff. But of course, you know, the cost differential between like FIU and Full
Yeah,
Sail is like
of course. Oh no, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of what I learned going to FIU is that you get out of something what you put in,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is something really important to keep in mind from, I mean, from this point. I mean, that's something that, going back
That's
to an
awesome.
earlier question, what I would tell myself in middle school, it's you get out what you put in of anything in life. And so going into college, I knew what I wanted. I was kind of already knowing what I wanted to do. So I was really focused and direct in what I was doing. So I was taking my theory classes. I was like, I know exactly what I want to use this for. So I'm going to learn as much as possible. I'm going to do all my homework. I'm going to do all my things. I'm going to study my sight reading. I'm going to do all my, you know, music technology classes. I was always really focused because I knew what I wanted to get out of the work I was putting in. So I think that can be applied. I mean,
Yeah.
to be honest with you, I think that you can do that
right there.
anywhere. I
Yeah.
think you can do that anywhere. You can do that at FIU. You can do that at University of Miami. You can do that in Full Sail. You can do that in Berkeley. I think what you put in is gonna matter the most. I think going to FIU was great because I was able to to do that. I was able to put in a lot of work. I was kind of just putting my head down and really focus on what I wanted to get out of the class. I was already looking at like, okay, I want to be this after, so I have to be preparing for that now. You know, it's kind of just having that foresight, I think, is really important. And I think you can do that in any situation that you find yourself in any school.
Cool. So they want to know, well, what kind of songs have you written? Can you name drop a few songs? Are you allowed to name drop?
No, of course I can. I mean, I can tell you that I've worked. I can tell you some of the artists that I've worked with, and I can tell you a few songs that I see. I don't know how many you'll know, but in the past few years, I've worked with Bad Bunny. If you guys know Bad Bunny, I've worked with a little bit with J Balvin. I've worked with Pedro Capó. I've worked with Maui Ricky. I've worked with Camilo. I've worked with Ricardo Montaner, which might be like your parents probably listen to Ricardo Montaner, or you know. So yeah, I've worked with I've been working with a lot of big artists, and there is a song that did really well last year that came out with this artist named Camilo. The name is Tutu. I don't know if any of your students have heard it, but it did pretty well. So yeah, it's
They're saying in the chat, wow.
getting a wow in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've worked with those kind of people. I worked on a few songs of the Bad Bunny album that just came out. A few in that came before it. Yeah. So I've worked with a few amount of people. It's in the Latin industry. That's kind of where I am right now, focused.
Right. Even though you have an American Grammy.
Right. In the Latin category. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you say that getting the Grammy had opened up any other opportunities for you?
Sure. Yeah. Definitely. I mean, it's one of those things where it feels really good to get that kind of appreciation from your peers, because the Grammys, you win them because you get voted by other members in what's called the Academy. So it's by other musicians, by other producers, by other artists, by other stuff. So they vote, and getting that kind of recognition from your own community is really important. So once you have that under your belt, you can be like, okay, you've done something of quality and of something that was rewarded by people in the industry. So people will, definitely take that seriously and are willing to give you a chance because of it.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say is the hardest thing that you had to go through in order to get to where you are right now?
The hardest thing is just The long hours. I mean, it's putting a lot of time in. I mean, I don't know if you've talked about this with with the kids, the concept of putting your 10,000 hours in. You
No,
know?
no, yeah, I
Okay.
know what you're talking about though.
So yeah. There's this concept of I think it's I'm not sure who
It's,
came up. I don't know if it was Bill Gates.
no, it's not that.
But he talks about it a lot.
Yes, yes, he does.
So about the concept of it
But
takes
you
ten
can't
thousand
master
hours.
something until you've done it for 10,000 hours.
Yeah, it's 10,000 hours
10,000
that you
hours
need to
till
put in to
mastery or
master
something like that.
something. Yeah, it's so what I'm thinking, like, just putting in the work. It's just, like sometimes might get frustrated, like, oh, why aren't I here yet? Why aren't I this? So like the process can be hard sometimes, but it's rewarding in and of itself once you get to a certain place and you like stuff like that. So I think just the long hours in the studio can be tough. The sometimes be I mean you're gonna be told no a lot. That's a reality of being in the music business, so it's gonna happen. A bunch of people are gonna tell you no, but all you need is that one yes, you know and then you can get to a next point. So yeah, it can be hard and it can be difficult, but it's very rewarding if you just keep your head down and just keep moving, because I think that's the most important thing.
All right. And then two last questions here as we end our hour mark here. First question is, what are some tips you could give people who also want to be songwriters or producers?
I think some tips that I can give you are, from a composition standpoint, just listen to a lot of music. Listen to a lot of music. I mean, that's how you learn. You learn by listening to what other people are doing and other people that are successful are putting out. And I think the same thing goes for producers. Listening to the sounds. What does music sound like right now? What kind of drum sounds? What kind of bass sounds? What kind of keyboard sounds? What kind of structurally, like, oh, do you have your verse, chorus, verse, or do you do chorus, pre-chorus, chorus? It's that you learn a lot just by listening. So I think that's one of the most important things. I think if you're trying to produce and songwrite, I think a great resource is something like GarageBand
Mm.
as well. If you have your computers at home and you can download GarageBand, you can start messing around with loops. You can start messing around with recording yourself, and I think the more you do it, the better you get. You're not going to be amazing from the start, but I think it's important to go through the process of just listening a lot and processing what you're listening to, and I think more than just listening, listen critically.
Mm.
Do critical listening. I think that would be one of my best, like the advice I would give the most, and then apply that to whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what kind of steps, I mean, you started to touch base on it. What kind of steps would you say to people to start getting their own studio happening?
I mean, the
Understand that you have
amazing
a
thing
setup there
about
at your house.
Yeah, I mean, it's taken me a bit to get there, but I think you don't need any of this to do it. I think what's amazing about music nowadays is that you can do it anywhere and with anything. You know, the technology is just great. So you can if you have a laptop with you right now, if you have an iPad, if you have a phone, there are music apps. You can download GarageBand for your phone. You know, so I think anything that lets you kind of record your ideas down is a great resource.
Mhm.
So if you have a keyboard at home, if you have a guitar at home, if you have your phone to record, if you have a phone to record your ideas, I think that's a great way of getting started, because it's the first step to sharing it with other people. Like, I recorded this the other day, listen to this. If you want to get more sophisticated, eventually you want to record onto a GarageBand, or you get to more advanced software that you can produce on and stuff like that. But I mean, to get started, you don't need much.
Mhm. Mhm. Cool. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for giving up your time here, an
Yeah,
hour
of
of your
course.
day. I know you're a busy guy, and I definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, of
And
course.
thankful that you're doing that during this COVID time. So
Yeah, of
yeah,
course.
reach out and we definitely appreciate it. So thank you again, very, very, very much. We're
No
gonna post
problem.
this
No
up on
problem.
YouTube, and hope you guys all have a fantastic day. And I'll see you guys on Wednesday, 10 a.m. We'll just have a follow-up session, kind of touch base, and also first years, please be ready to present your songs in third period on Wednesday, so that's 10 a.m. If there are any sixth period kids in here, make sure you're ready to present your songs tomorrow and Thursday. All right. Well, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and
Bye, everybody.
until the next session.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye. Stay safe.
You guys too. Have a good one.
Mr. Firestone?
Yeah. Let me stop recording.